Hey everybody, it's Royalty coming in. Um, just to make this real quick, I'm gonna make this a short, like 9 to 10 minute video. I'm a big follower of Dutch Sense. Been watching him since he pretty much started making his videos. So I've been following him for about 8 years now. I don't know if he's done anything before that, but big follower. Guy has really good information, makes really great points, and he is pinpoint on, what he's talking about. But on the other hand, me and him need to collaborate. I can tell you where the source of the energy is coming from. He'll be able to tell you, when, give you a good time frame of when, and then tell you where the energy is going to go. But I can tell you where the energy is coming from, which will give you all a more 3 day extra advance notice on when the energy is going to reach the planet. So this is in response of the 8.2 earthquake we had the other day. And I've been studying and researching earthquakes for about 12 years myself. So moving on, speed this up because I want you all to be able to keep following Dutch Sense because he does run live streams, which is really good. And I recommend him as another source of news for what's going on now. So to get on about this, right now I'm gonna tell you why we had that earthquake yesterday. So, let's see. What's going on right now is we have a coronal hole that's facing the Earth right now. And if you don't know what a coronal hole is, basically it's a hole in the sun. And in the hole in the sun, it releases a stream of solar radiation, which emits, solar wind. And when that solar wind reaches our planet, it causes a jolt. And also on top of that, there's an initial jolt in advance, which is, sometimes it only takes 3 to 5 hours or 7 hours for that jolt, so that first stream of energy to hit. But then right behind it, trailing, is the actual energy, which is more densified, so it takes longer to reach the planet. So we've been experiencing up to about 500 kilometers a second worth of solar wind speed that's been hitting the planet, and the magnetosphere, our shields can only take so much. So once they've been, pummeled for, a course of period of time, they get weakened, and then more of the energy is able to come into the planet. So right now we have a nice big size coronal hole, which this could last for about 2 to 3 days, or 4 3 days before it can actually start facing away from Earth and stop, affecting us. So if we go here, I'll click this. This will be a 7 day graph right here, and let me explain this. So if you look down here, on August 15th, what we had the earthquake, yesterday, August 18th? Okay, so if you notice, about close to the middle of the 15th and the 16th, we started receiving that energy from the coronal hole that started facing the Earth. Now remember, it takes a while for it to reach the planet because the satellites, they're closer to the sun than they are to the planet. That way we get an earlier advance warning on anything coming from the sun that's serious as far as solar flares. But that's another topic. So back here. Now remember I said that the shields on our planet, it started taking a hit here, and then for another whole day, a day and a half, and also when we get right here, why you see a gap? Because just like the USGS, the government hides data on their website too, because it still is a government, or is affiliated, you know, website. So right here, I'm gonna guarantee after my years of studies that we took an initial burst right here. So we took a burst right there, then it just no data, no data, no data. But right before the no data happened, we were taking bursts above the charts limits. So what's happening is right on the 17th, when that satellite picked up this big burst of energy that came in, it, like I said, it takes about, it takes up to like 7 hours, or depending on the density and how fast it's traveling, it takes up to like 8 hours worth of time for it to reach the planet. So after we took that burst, right about here, you know, is when that energy from right here actually reached the planet. and help cause that burst. Because you got to look at this in a spiritual nature as well. Because look at this, we got its speed. The solar speeds has just been increasing. By the close to the end of 17th to the 18th, the solar wind started climbing even more. We can't even see it because it's going past 600 kilometers. Right about here. Um, Let's see. If you notice, if you look over here, this is another website you can get your space weather information from. We got a hole in the sun's atmosphere. A large hole in the sun's atmosphere is turning toward Earth, spewing a stream of high-speed solar wind toward our planet. This comes as darkness is returning to the Arctic Circle, setting the stage for a possible grand display of northern lights on August 21st. Now, when we get northern lights, it's from the solar radiation that we're getting from the sun, which transfers itself to the poles, which is where we see our aurora borealis is at. And they're beautiful sightings, but it's also a bad sign because it means that radiation is penetrating past the shields into the earth. And when that energy breaks through the shield and it's pouring into the earth, it goes into the core. It goes towards the core because you got to think about it in a spiritual nature as well. And you can't be just physical about this. There's a spiritual nature to this as well. So when that's energy goes, because it's not a physical aspect. When the energy goes through the earth, it bounces off the core, and it either resurfaces, or it detonates itself, where it hits, which is why you get the depth of certain big earthquakes that we have. Because if you think about it, if there was really something going on about 600 kilometers below ground with that type of magnitude, then that would indicate pretty much a core problem, and that would be extremely earth-ending devastation type of theory. But realistically, it's how much energy penetrated through the shield and forced itself into the earth, and that's where the energy came from. So the energy came from above, not below, as it was said, as above so below. Because as soon as I saw things going wrong down here with these earthquakes, I automatically knew that something had to be happening in space. So, to give you more evidence and proof that solar energy, amplifies what's going on our planet. About 2017, on September 5th, I was forecasting and actually warning people about Hurricane Irma. Right when Hurricane Irma first came, and it was only a Category 1. And I was warning people that Irma was going to go to a Category 6, way before it even increased to its intensity that it increased to. The government didn't dare report that Irma actually did hit a 6. They hid some of the data, they kind of weakened it, lowered it a little bit, they pushed it as close as they wanted, and as they were going to go to being a 6, because if they would have admitted that it was a Hurricane 6, they would have had to redo their charts, graphs, come up with a new forecast system and a new intensity chart. So this is a video I made right here. Like I said, September 5th, 2017. It's a 20-second video, real fast. So Irma was, reaching 175 miles an hour, Category 5, the strongest Atlantic hurricane in 10 years. And I was, forecasting this intensity well in advance. And it was because of solar energy that was coming in. So if you look here on the next clip I have right here, during this time, September 5th, 6th, 7th, our planet was going through a geomagnetic storm. And if I can make another video and explain all that to you and what that does, but for a whole day, we were going through a G2 storm, and then when September 7th actually hit, we were still going through it. Most of the energy, it broke past the shields and was actually hitting the planet. So if you look here, it's really hard to see, but the protons, we took an extreme burst of protons as well, right there, and Irma pretty much absorbed that energy and kept intensifying itself and keeping its energy that it has. That's where, because they kept saying, where is Hurricane Irma getting all this energy from? It's above. It was getting the energy from space. Let's see. And also, I was forecasting how much precipitation that was going to happen, because this was a future chart that I came up with from Venusky. Venusky is not my website. It's another government-owned web-based or website that's free to the public. But it can show you where storms is moving and how much precipitation it's going to drop before it actually does.